I stared at the dirty dish rag that had just hit my face, trying to maintain my composure as it fell into my lap. The expensive china from dinner still littered the table, and my mother-in-law's laughter echoed through our high-ceilinged dining room. Well, aren't you going to clean up, April? That's what housekeepers do after all. Abigail's voice dripped with contempt as she raised her wineglass to her perfectly painted lips. My name is April, and this was how I spent my 32nd birthday, being humiliated at my own dinner table while my husband Lincoln sat there smirking, clearly entertained by his mother's cruelty. Mother's right, darling, Lincoln drawled, loosening his tie. The dishes won't clean themselves, and since you've contributed nothing else to this household. He let the insult hang in the air, heavy and familiar. I picked up the rag, my hand steady despite the rage burning in my chest. They had no idea about the envelope sitting upstairs in my bedside drawer, delivered just this morning. No clue about the meeting I'd had with Neil, my grandfather's lawyer, or the documents that would change everything. Of course, I said quietly, standing to gather the plates. Wouldn't want to disappoint anyone on my birthday. Oh, please, Abigail scoffed, as if you deserve a celebration. My son married beneath him, but at least you're useful for something. Though lately, even your housekeeping has been slipping. I moved methodically around the table, collecting dishes, remembering how my grandfather Roy used to watch these dynamics play out during his visits. He'd seen everything, every snide comment, every dismissive gesture. Now I understood why he'd always had that knowing look in his eyes, especially during his final months. Speaking of useful, Lincoln said, checking his phone, we're hosting the charity gala next month. Mother thinks we should have it here. You'll need to prepare the house, of course. I paused, plates in hand. Next month? In this house? Don't tell me you're going to argue, Abigail snapped. It's not as if you have anything else to do, unless you've suddenly developed some skills beyond scrubbing floors. The irony almost made me laugh. If they only knew that the floors they walked on, the walls that surrounded them, the very roof over their heads, it all belonged to me now. My beloved grandfather Roy had made sure of that. No argument, I replied, my voice steady. I just want to be clear about the timeline. Next month, you said? Lincoln narrowed his eyes at my tone. Yes, next month. Is that going to be a problem? I allowed myself a small smile as I headed toward the kitchen. No problem at all. I'm sure a lot can change in a month. What's that supposed to mean? Abigail called after me. Nothing, I said, pushing through the kitchen door. Just thinking out loud. As I loaded the dishwasher, I could hear them in the dining room, their voices carrying clearly through the house. My house, though they didn't know it yet. That attitude of hers, Abigail was saying, I don't like it, Lincoln. She's getting ideas above her station. Don't worry, Mother. She knows her place. I pulled the envelope from my apron pocket. I'd started carrying it around like a talisman. Inside was the deed to the house, transfer documents from my grandfather's extensive estate, and a handwritten note from Roy himself. My dearest April, you've endured enough. It's time they learned what you're really worth. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. Through the kitchen window, I watched Lincoln answer it, speaking briefly with someone who handed him an official-looking envelope. My heart raced, right on schedule. April! Lincoln's voice carried a note of confusion I'd never heard before. Get in here! I took a deep breath, tucked my grandfather's letter away, and walked back to the dining room. Lincoln stood there holding the envelope, his face flushed. Care to explain why we just received an eviction notice? He demanded. Abigail choked on her wine. A what? I looked at them both, savoring the moment as their comfortable world began to crack. Oh, that must be from the new owner, I said calmly. I believe you have 30 days to vacate the premises. New owner? Lincoln's voice rose. What new owner? This is my house. I picked up the dish rag from where it had fallen and held it out to Abigail. Actually, it's mine, And I think you might need this more than I do now. After all, I paused, letting my smile widen. A good housekeeper always cleans up after herself. The morning after my birthday dinner, I sat in Neil's office, surrounded by the mahogany and leather that spoke of old money and discretion. My grandfather's lawyer pushed a stack of documents across his desk, his expression both professional and sympathetic. Everything's in order, April. The house, the investment portfolio, the business holdings, it's all legally transferred to you now. He adjusted his glasses. Roy was very specific about how this should be handled. I picked up the top document, running my fingers over my grandfather's familiar signature. They're going to fight this, you know. Let them try. Neil leaned back in his chair. Roy spent the last 2 years of his life making this ironclad. He knew exactly what he was doing. A memory surfaced. My grandfather's last Christmas with us, watching silently as Lincoln and Abigail criticized my holiday dinner. I'd caught Roy's eye across the table, seen something fierce and determined there. Tell me about the house, I said. When did he buy it? Neil pulled out another file. 3 years ago. Lincoln and Abigail thought they were renting from a corporate entity. Roy created it specifically for this purpose. Neil hesitated. He wanted me to show you something else. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Sarah, bring in the video, please. His assistant entered with a laptop, setting it up before us. Neil typed briefly, and suddenly my grandfather's face filled the screen. My throat tightened. He'd recorded this in his study just weeks before he passed. April, my dear. Roy's voice was weak but clear. If you're watching this, then everything's in place. I've watched them diminish you for years, treating you like a servant in your own home. But I've also watched you grow stronger, smarter, managing my affairs when I was too ill to do it myself. You have a gift for business, April. More than Lincoln ever had. I wiped away tears as Roy continued. The house is yours. The money is yours. But more importantly, your life is yours. Use what I've given you wisely. And, he smiled, that familiar twinkle in his eye, give them hell, sweetheart. The video ended. Neil cleared his throat. There's more. Roy had concerns about Lincoln's financial activities. He hired investigators. What kind of activities? Embezzlement attempts through his mother, offshore accounts, and Neil handed me another folder. Evidence of an affair with someone named Kendall. Roy thought you should have all the information. My hand shook as I opened the folder. Photos, bank statements, hotel receipts, Lincoln and a blonde woman, looking intimate at various locations. Dates going back 2 years. Does Abigail know about any of this? The affair? No. The financial misconduct? She was actively helping him try to siphon what they thought would be his inheritance. I closed the folder, feeling oddly calm. They're going to call their lawyer today. Already did, Neil smiled. Tried to claim the eviction notice was fraudulent. I sent over proof of ownership an hour ago. He checked his phone, not taking it well. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Lincoln's name flashed on the screen. I showed it to Neil. Take it, he said. You're on solid ground here. I answered, putting it on speaker. Yes? April, where the hell are you? Lincoln's voice was tight with panic. Mother's having a fit. We need to talk about this ridiculous situation right now. I'm handling business matters, Lincoln. Family business. What business? You don't have any business. Get home now, and we'll sort out this misunderstanding. I caught Neil's encouraging nod. Actually, I do have business. Grandfather Roy's business, to be specific. And it's not a misunderstanding. Your grandfather? Lincoln's voice cracked. What does he have to do with anything? Everything, as it turns out. He left me quite a lot, including the house you're currently standing in. Silence, then muffled voices as Lincoln presumably spoke to Abigail. April? His tone turned wheedling. Darling, let's discuss this. We're family. Surely we can. Our family? I cut him off. Is that what you call it? Tell me, Lincoln, does family usually throw dirty rags at each other's faces? Does family treat someone like a servant in their own home? You're being dramatic. Mother was just Mother was just being herself, and you were just being you. Well, now I'm going to be me. I glanced at Neil, who gave me a thumbs up. The eviction notice stands. 30 days, Lincoln. I suggest you and your mother start packing. I hung up before he could respond. Neil was already pulling out another document. Ready to review the rest of your inheritance? He asked. I straightened in my chair, feeling more like my grandfather's granddaughter than ever before. Ready for everything. I let the breakfast dishes pile up in the sink. 3 days had passed since the eviction notice, and I'd stopped playing the role of perfect housekeeper. The sound of Abigail's heels clicking against the hardwood floors grew louder as she approached the kitchen. What is this mess? She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Have you completely forgotten your responsibilities? I continued sipping my coffee, scrolling through emails on my phone. Oh, I thought I'd take a break from cleaning. I have some calls to make. Calls? She practically spat the word. What calls could you possibly have? Important ones. I stood up, straightening my blouse. No more aprons for me. Actually, I'll take them in my study. Your study? Abigail's face reddened. That's Lincoln's office. Not anymore. I walked past her, enjoying the scent of my expensive perfume, a small gift to myself from my new accounts. I heard her following me up the stairs, her breathing heavy with indignation. Lincoln's voice drifted from their bedroom. Mother, what's going on? Your wife has lost her mind, Abigail called back. She's going into your office. I entered the room that had once been forbidden to me, settling into the leather chair behind the desk. Lincoln appeared in the doorway, his face stormy. Get out of my office, April. No. I opened my laptop, also new, and began typing. I have work to do. Work? He strode toward the desk. What kind of game are you playing? I looked up at him calmly. No game, Lincoln. Just managing my assets. Did you know Grandfather Roy owned controlling interest in your company's biggest client? The color drained from his face. What? Oh, yes. I had quite an interesting call with their board this morning. They're very interested in reviewing all recent contracts, especially the ones you've been handling. You can't, he started. I can. I did. And that's just the beginning. I turned back to my laptop. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have another call in 5 minutes. Lincoln, Abigail hissed from the doorway. Don't let her speak to you this way. He moved around the desk, trying to loom over me. April, whatever you think you're doing, stop it right now. This isn't you. Actually, this is exactly me, the real me, the one you never bothered to know. I picked up my phone. By the way, the cleaning service starts tomorrow. I've hired them to maintain the house until you leave. Consider it a courtesy. Cleaning service? Abigail's voice rose to a shriek. Have you lost your mind? That's your job. Not anymore. I smiled, remembering all the times they'd called me their housekeeper. I'm retiring from that position, effective immediately. Lincoln grabbed my arm. This stops now. You're my wife, and you'll do as I say. I looked pointedly at his hand until he released me. Touch me again, and I'll add assault to the restraining order I'm considering. Restraining order? He stumbled back. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I turned to Abigail. That goes for you, too. The next rag you throw at me will cost you dearly. My phone buzzed. Neil's office. I answered it on speaker, just to drive the point home. Yes, Neil? April, the bank confirms all accounts are transferred. The separate accounts Lincoln tried to open yesterday have been frozen pending investigation. I watched Lincoln's face turn ashen. Thank you, Neil. Anything else? Yes. The auditors want to meet tomorrow about those irregular transactions they found. Shall I set that up? Perfect. Email me the details. I hung up and faced my husband. Irregular transactions, Lincoln? Care to explain? He backed away, grabbing his mother's arm. This isn't over, April. You're right. I stood, gathering my things. It's just beginning. Oh, and don't bother with the charity gala next month. I've already informed the committee that the venue is no longer available. I walked out of the office, my office now, leaving them sputtering behind me. In the hallway, I heard Abigail's desperate whispers. Lincoln, do something. Call someone. I tried, Mother. The lawyers say everything's legal. The house, the company shares, all of it. She owns everything. I smiled, heading to my bedroom to make my next call. The movers I'd hired would arrive next week to start packing their things. After all, I was done cleaning up after them. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Neil. This one contained the final piece of evidence about Lincoln's affair with Kendall. I saved it carefully. The timing wasn't quite right to use it, but soon, very soon. The professional movers arrived exactly on schedule, their truck pulling into the driveway at 9 a.m. sharp. I watched from the front steps as Lincoln and Abigail came rushing out, still in their mourning robes. What is the meaning of this? Abigail demanded, her voice carrying across the manicured lawn. Who are these people? I walked down to meet the moving crew's supervisor, who was checking his tablet. Good morning. I'm April. We spoke on the phone. Stop right there. Lincoln jogged over, trying to place himself between me and the movers. You can't do this. Actually, I can. I handed the supervisor my identification. As the property owner, I'm arranging for the removal of all belongings belonging to Lincoln and Abigail. They've been given proper notice. This is ridiculous. Abigail's voice cracked. We haven't packed. We haven't found a new place. You've had 3 weeks, I replied calmly. That's plenty of time to make arrangements. Don't worry. I've arranged storage for your things. The supervisor nodded, confirming the details on his tablet. We'll start with the upper floor? No! Lincoln grabbed my arm, harder this time. You vindictive bitch, you can't. Security? I called out, and 2 uniformed officers stepped out of an unmarked car I'd arranged to have waiting. Lincoln released me immediately. Is there a problem here, ma'am? One officer asked, approaching us. No problem, I said smoothly. Just ensuring the eviction proceeds peacefully. I have all the paperwork right here. While the officers reviewed the documents, Abigail started to cry, not her usual theatrical tears, but real, ugly sobs. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern. I turned to the moving crew. Yes, start upstairs. Everything except my personal items, which are clearly marked. The next few hours were chaos. Lincoln and Abigail alternated between begging, threatening, and trying to prevent the movers from touching their precious belongings. The security officers kept them in check while the crew worked efficiently, boxing and removing items. My antiques! Abigail wailed as her precious vases were carefully wrapped. Lincoln, do something. But Lincoln had gone quiet, watching with a haunted expression as his life was systematically packed away. He approached me while the movers were handling his designer suit collection. April. His voice was low, desperate. Please, we can work this out. I'm your husband. Are you? I pulled out my phone, showing him the photo of him and Kendall. Funny, you don't act like it. His face went white. How did you? Grandfather Roy was very thorough. He kept tabs on everything, Lincoln. The affair, the money you tried to embezzle, all of it. I can explain. Save it. I turned to the supervisor. How's progress? About halfway done, ma'am. The storage unit is ready to receive everything. Storage unit? Abigail had crept closer. What storage unit? A climate-controlled unit across town, paid for 1 month. After that, you'll need to make your own arrangements. 1 month? She looked ready to faint. But our things, our furniture, are my things now, I corrected her. The furniture stays. You get your personal belongings only. The reality of their situation finally seemed to hit them. Lincoln slumped against the wall while Abigail sank into a chair, watching helplessly as their privileged life was packed into boxes. By late afternoon, the movers were loading the last items. I handed the supervisor a thick envelope. "Thank you for your efficiency." "Our pleasure, ma'am." He paused. "The security team will stay until sunset?" "Yes, just in case." Lincoln and Abigail stood on the front lawn, looking lost among their scattered designer luggage. Their car, leased through my grandfather's company, had already been repossessed the day before. "I've called you a taxi," I said, checking my watch. "It should be here any minute." "You're really doing this," Lincoln whispered. "You're really throwing us out." "No, Lincoln. You threw yourselves out. Every time you treated me like nothing. Every time you let your mother abuse me. Every time you cheated." I smiled as a taxi pulled up. "You just didn't expect to face the consequences." "This isn't over," Abigail spat, but her voice trembled. "Actually, it is." I walked back toward the house, my house. "Oh, and Abigail, remember when you said I'd be alone, that no one would want someone so cruel?" She stared at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. "I'd rather be alone than be with people like you." I closed the door on their stunned faces, listening to the taxi drive away. Inside, the house felt different, lighter somehow. I poured myself a glass of wine and smiled. The housekeeper had finally finished cleaning house. Neil's office called me early the next morning. "April, you need to see this," his assistant said. "Lincoln's been busy." I arrived to find Neil reviewing security footage from the storage facility. "Watch this," he said, pressing play. The grainy video showed Lincoln and a blonde woman, Kendall, trying to access the storage unit at 3 a.m. They were turned away by security. "That's not all." Neil handed me a stack of papers. "He's been calling every law firm in the city trying to build a case against you, and this morning he attempted to access your grandfather's business accounts." "Attempted?" "Failed spectacularly. But there's more." Neil leaned forward. "Abigail's been reaching out to your old social circle, spreading stories about you having a mental breakdown." I laughed. "Let me guess. She's painting herself as the concerned mother-in-law?" "Exactly, but it's backfiring. Several people have contacted us, offering to testify about how they witnessed their treatment of you over the years." My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. It was Kendall. "We need to talk about Lincoln." "Well, this is interesting." I showed Neil the message. "Want me to set up a meeting? Neutral location? Security present?" I nodded. "Let's hear what she has to say." 2 hours later, I sat in a quiet cafe, watching Kendall fidget with her coffee cup. She looked expensive but tired, her designer clothes slightly rumpled. "He promised me everything," she said finally. "The house, the money, his mother's connections. Said once his grandfather died, we'd be set. And now? Now he's living in my apartment, making excuses about temporary setbacks." She pulled out her phone. "But I found these on his laptop." She slid the phone across the table. "Emails between Lincoln and various offshore accounts, plans to embezzle company funds, conversations about selling proprietary information to competitors. Why are you showing me this?" "Because he's planning something." Kendall looked around nervously. "He's meeting with some shady people, talking about taking back what's his. I thought you should know." I forwarded the emails to Neil, then looked at Kendall. "Thank you. But why really?" "Because I was stupid," she admitted. "I believed his lies about you, that you were nothing, just a gold digger who trapped him. But now I see who the real gold digger was." My phone buzzed again. Abigail's name. I answered on speaker. "How dare you turn our friends against us?" she shrieked. "After everything we've done for you." "Done for me?" I caught Kendall's wince at Abigail's tone. "You mean like throwing rags in my face? Calling me your housekeeper? Or maybe you mean supporting your son's affair?" Silence. Then, what affair? I looked at Kendall, who nodded slightly. Should I ask Kendall to explain? She's sitting right here. The sound of something shattering came through the phone, followed by Lincoln's panicked voice in the background. Mother? Mother, what's wrong? Your mistress is here with me, I said clearly. She's been quite helpful, Lincoln. Those offshore accounts you set up, the corporate espionage plans, all very interesting. You bitch! Lincoln had grabbed the phone. You turned her against me too? No, Lincoln. You did that all on your own. I ended the call and looked at Kendall. You should probably find somewhere else to stay tonight. She nodded, standing. I already packed my bags. He just doesn't know it yet. After she left, I called Neil. Did you get everything? Every email. The authorities will be very interested in this. Want me to make the calls? Not yet. I remembered something in the emails. First, I need to check something at the house. I drove home and went straight to Lincoln's old office. Behind his pretentious art collection, just as Kendall's emails had indicated, I found a hidden safe. My grandfather's master key, the one Lincoln never knew about, opened it easily. Inside were documents, USB drives, and a small recording device. I pressed play. Once the old man dies, Lincoln's voice crackled through the speaker, we'll transfer everything offshore. April won't suspect a thing until it's too late. Mother's already arranged the paperwork. I called Neil again. Remember those investigators grandfather Roy hired? Tell them I have something they need to hear. That evening, I sat in my quiet house, watching the sunset through windows that no longer felt like prison bars. My phone lit up with messages from mutual friends, all expressing shock at Lincoln and Abigail's true nature. I ignored them all except one, from Kendall. They just discovered I'm gone, left your evidence on his desk. The shouting is spectacular. I smiled, raising my wine glass to my grandfather's portrait. The house felt cleaner by the day. The storage facility called me exactly 1 month after the eviction. Ms. April, the unit hasn't been paid for, and we're preparing to auction the contents. Have they tried to access it? No, ma'am, not since that night with the blonde woman. I hung up and dialed Neil. Any word on their whereabouts? Oh, yes, he chuckled. Abigail's living with her cousin in a 2-bedroom apartment across town. Lincoln's been bouncing between cheap motels since Kendall kicked him out. Their social circle has completely imploded. A knock at my door interrupted our conversation. Through the security camera, I saw Abigail standing there, looking decidedly less polished than usual. I'll call you back, I told Neil. The circus has arrived. I opened the door to find Abigail in off-the-rack clothes, her roots showing gray. What do you want? To talk? Her voice lacked its usual imperial tone. Please, April, just give me 5 minutes. I let her into the foyer, no further. She stared at the changes I'd made. New artwork, different furniture, brighter colors. You've changed everything. That's what homeowners do. I crossed my arms. Your 5 minutes started when you walked in. We need help, she blurted out. Lincoln's job. They fired him after those emails leaked. No one will hire him. My friends won't return my calls. The storage facility is threatening to sell our things. Sounds like consequences to me. We're family. She stepped forward, desperation in her eyes. Despite everything, we're still family. You can't just throw family away. I laughed. Family? Let's talk about family, Abigail. Was it family when you threw that rag in my face? When you called me your housekeeper at my own birthday dinner? I was wrong, she whispered. I see that now. No, you're just sorry you lost everything. There's a difference. She grabbed my arm. Please, just help us get back on our feet. A small loan, maybe? Or let us stay here until... Take your hand off me. My voice was ice. Now. She stepped back, tears forming. What happened to you? You used to be so sweet, so accommodating. I grew up. I grew stronger, and I stopped letting people like you and Lincoln treat me like dirt. But what about Lincoln? He's your husband. Ex-husband, soon enough. The divorce papers are being filed tomorrow. Her face contorted. You vindictive little... Careful, I cut her off. Remember who owns the roof you're standing under. We made you, she spat. Without us, you'd be nothing. I walked to the door and opened it. No, Abigail. Without you, I'm finally everything I was meant to be. Your 5 minutes are up. This isn't over, she hissed, echoing Lincoln's words from the eviction day. Actually, it is. But since you're here, I pulled out an envelope. This is an invitation to my housewarming party next week. All your old friends will be there, the ones who've been sharing such interesting stories about you both. She snatched the envelope, tearing it open. Her face went pale as she read the guest list. You invited everyone? Everyone, including Kendall. She's been quite the hit at social events lately, especially when she shares those emails Lincoln wrote her. Abigail crumpled the invitation. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Destroying our lives? Almost as much as you enjoyed destroying mine. I gestured to the door. Goodbye, Abigail. Give Lincoln my regards. Oh, and about the storage unit? I'd hurry if I were you. The auction's tomorrow. She stormed out, trying to maintain her dignity despite her shabby clothes and faded hair. I watched her walk down the driveway, no car waiting to whisk her away, no son to defend her honor. My phone buzzed. A text from Grace, an old friend I'd reconnected with. Just got the party invitation. Can't wait to celebrate your new beginning. And don't worry, I made sure everyone knows the real story about Lincoln and his mother. I smiled, remembering how Grace had witnessed some of their worst behavior over the years, but had been powerless to help. Now she was leading the charge and exposing their true nature to society. Another text came through, this one from Neil. Police want to interview Lincoln about those offshore accounts tomorrow. Should I send them his current motel address? Yes, I typed back. It's time. I walked through my house, my clean, peaceful house, and stopped at my grandfather's portrait. You were right, I told it softly. They needed to learn what I'm really worth. The portrait seemed to smile back, and somewhere in the distance, I heard the faint sound of karma knocking. The housewarming party was in full swing when Lincoln crashed it. He stumbled through the front door, his once immaculate appearance now disheveled, his expensive suit replaced by wrinkled department store clothes. April, he shouted over the elegant jazz music. We need to talk. The room fell silent. Nearly 100 guests, all the right people Abigail had spent years cultivating, turned to stare at him. I spotted Kendall among them, wearing a stunning red dress and a satisfied smirk. Security, I called calmly. 2 guards moved toward Lincoln, but he held up his hands. Wait, everyone needs to hear this. He looked around wildly. She's not who you think she is. She's destroyed our lives. Grace stepped forward. You mean like how you destroyed hers for years? We all saw it, Lincoln. We were all here. You don't understand, he pleaded. Mother and I, we're living in squalor. They're investigating me for fraud. The police are very interested in those offshore accounts. Neil's voice cut through the crowd. He emerged holding a tablet. Would you like me to share the details with everyone here? Lincoln's face went pale. You can't prove anything. Actually, Kendall stepped forward, we can prove everything. Those emails you sent me, very detailed about your plans for April's inheritance. You betrayed me, Lincoln snarled at her. Like you betrayed April? Someone else called out. We heard what happened at her birthday dinner. The crowd was turning hostile. Lincoln looked around desperately, then focused on me again. April, please, I'm your husband. Not for much longer. I nodded to Neil, who pulled out an envelope. You've been served, Lincoln. Divorce papers. And don't worry, I made sure to include copies of all your extracurricular activities. You can't do this to me? He lunged forward, but the security guards caught him. I made you who you are. No, I said clearly, making sure everyone could hear. You tried to make me less than I am. You and your mother spent years trying to convince me, and everyone else, that I was nothing but a housekeeper. Because that's all you were, he spat, struggling against the guards. Perfect. Exactly what I'd hoped he'd say. Really? I smiled. Then let me show everyone exactly what this housekeeper has been cleaning up. I turned to Neil. The screen, please. A large projection screen lowered from the ceiling. The room darkened slightly as emails, bank statements, and photos began to appear. Here's Lincoln embezzling from his clients, I narrated as the evidence scrolled. Here's his secret account transfers. Oh, and here's my personal favorite, his plans to steal my inheritance the moment my grandfather died. The crowd murmured in shock. Several of Lincoln's business associates were taking photos of the evidence with their phones. And let's not forget the surveillance footage, I continued. Lincoln and his mother planning to forge documents. Lincoln meeting with competitors to sell company secrets. Lincoln and Kendall at various hotels. Sorry, Kendall, but it helps complete the picture. No apology needed. Kendall raised her glass. I'm just glad I saw his true colors before it was too late. Lincoln had stopped struggling, his face ashen. You've ruined me. No, Lincoln, you ruined yourself. I just exposed the truth. I walked closer to him. How does it feel to be powerless? To have everything taken away? To be humiliated in front of everyone who matters? I'll get you for this, he whispered. Security, I smiled. Please show my soon-to-be ex-husband out, and make sure he understands that if he returns, he'll be arrested for trespassing. As they dragged him toward the door, it opened again, revealing Abigail. She took in the scene, her son being escorted out, the evidence still projected on the screen, her former social circle watching with a mixture of disgust and fascination. What have you done? She shrieked. I cleaned house, I replied simply. Isn't that what a good housekeeper does? Removes the dirt, gets rid of toxic elements. The security guards moved to escort her out as well. As they passed me, she turned back one last time. We were right about you, she hissed. You're nothing but a what? I cut her off. A successful businesswoman? The owner of this house? The person who exposed your son's crimes? Choose carefully, Abigail. Your words seem to have a way of coming back to haunt you. The doors closed behind them. In the silence that followed, I turned to my guests. Well, I smiled, who's ready for champagne? The party resumed with renewed energy, the room buzzing with conversation about what they just witnessed. I caught Neil's eye across the room. He nodded approvingly. The housekeeper had finally finished her biggest cleaning job yet, and the house had never felt more spotless. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the final divorce papers. Neil sat across from me, organizing a stack of documents. Lincoln signed everything, he said. No contest. Smart move, considering the alternative was having all his crimes exposed in court. My phone buzzed, a news alert. I smiled as I read it aloud. Local businessman under investigation for fraud and corporate espionage. Sources say former executive Lincoln faces potential criminal charges. Your grandfather would be proud, Neil said, gathering his briefcase. Speaking of which, there's one last thing he wanted you to have. He pulled out a sealed envelope, aged and slightly yellowed. Roy left instructions to give you this after everything was settled. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. My dearest April, if you're reading this, then you finally claimed your power. I watched them diminish you for years, and it broke my heart. But I also saw your strength, your intelligence, your quiet dignity. I didn't just leave you my wealth. I left you the tools to free yourself. The house, the business holdings, the evidence against Lincoln. These weren't gifts. They were weapons, and you wielded them perfectly. You were never their housekeeper, April. You were always my heir, in every sense of the word. With love and pride, Grandfather Roy. A knock at my office door interrupted my tears. Grace entered, followed by several members of the company board. "Ready for your first official meeting as CEO?" Grace asked, now my head of operations. "Almost." I wiped my eyes and stood. "Just finished some personal business." "Did you see the news?" one board member asked. "Lincoln's being questioned by federal investigators right now." "And Abigail?" Grace raised an eyebrow. "Living with distant relatives in another state," I replied. "Apparently, her cousin kicked her out after she tried to reorganize their household staff." The board members chuckled. They'd all witnessed Abigail's behavior at corporate events over the years. "The storage unit was auctioned off yesterday," Grace added. "Their precious antiques sold for pennies on the dollar." "Karma's quite thorough," I said, gathering my materials for the meeting. "Speaking of thorough, how's the company restructuring going?" "Smoothly. The clients Lincoln tried to steal are all signing new contracts with us. Turns out they prefer honest business practices." We walked to the conference room together. Through the glass walls, I could see the city skyline, the same view Lincoln used to lord over, never suspecting his housekeeper wife would one day take his place. My phone buzzed again. A text from Kendall. "Just testified to the FBI about Lincoln's offshore accounts. Thought you'd want to know." "Good news?" Grace asked, noting my smile. "The best kind. The kind that comes from truth finally being heard." The board meeting went smoothly. My grandfather had taught me well during those quiet hours helping with his business, and now his legacy was thriving under my leadership. After the meeting, I drove home, to my clean, peaceful house. No more dirty rags thrown in my face. No more snide comments about my worth. No more pretending to be less than I am. As I pulled into the driveway, I spotted a familiar figure waiting by my door. Abigail, looking even more haggard than at the party. "Here for another round?" I asked, stepping out of my car. "I'm here to apologize," she said quietly. I studied her face, searching for the manipulation I'd grown so accustomed to seeing. Instead, I found defeat. "Lincoln's going to jail," she continued. "Everything we had is gone. You won. Isn't that enough?" This wasn't about winning, Abigail. It was about justice, about truth, about showing you both exactly what the housekeeper was capable of. "I understand that now." She turned to leave, then paused. "Your grandfather, he saw it all along, didn't he? What we were, what you could be." "He did." I walked past her to my door. "He taught me that real power isn't in controlling others. It's in knowing your own worth." "I wish," she started, then stopped. "Goodbye, Abigail," I said firmly. "Don't come back." I watched her walk away, no longer the imperious figure who had terrorized my life for so long. Just a bitter woman who had lost everything because of her own cruelty. Inside, I went straight to my grandfather's portrait. "We did it," I told him. "We cleaned house completely." The setting sun cast a warm glow through the windows, and for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. The housekeeper had become the master of the house, and every room was finally perfectly clean.